If you're someone that wants to know more about aspirin, the doses, how you should take it, when is it safe, when is it not safe, everything you want to know about aspirin, I'll go over in this video. And this video is actually a lesson from the Reclaim Mastermind that I want to share with you for free. And by the way, if you're someone that wants to get started straight away and optimize your testosterone, your thyroid, take you from your current state to your desired state, I'm going to leave a link down below to the Reclaim Mastermind that goes deeper into hormonal optimization than just aspirin. So that being said, let's get into the aspirin video. Enjoy. What's going on? In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about aspirin. So aspirin is one of the supplements that I highly recommend, and it's one of the supplements that you'll see a lot of results with. And it's a supplement that a lot of people wouldn't consider a supplement, and it could be even controversial for some. So I'm going to go over all the studies and the benefits, and yeah. So aspirin in it of itself is a natural compound, which is naturally occurring compound found in the bark of the willow tree. So if you get a willow tree and you get the bark and you cook the bark, you will make aspirin. So it's a natural compound. There's nothing toxic or it's made by the pharmaceutical industry or anything like that. And the reason why aspirin is not pushed so much is because it's so cheap to make. There isn't a lot of money in it, so hence why it's so, even nowadays it could be even demonized in a sense. But let's look at the benefits that aspirin can give you. So aspirin will give you improved insulin sensitivity, it's neural protection, it's anti-inflammatory. So because it's anti-inflammatory, one of the things when it comes to aspirin, you do not want to take it straight after a workout. It's very similar to cold showers. Training is a hormetic stress response that your body positively adapts to. So you don't want to add things to your natural recovery process because you won't get the adaptation which you want, which is muscle growth. So when it comes to aspirin or vitamin E, don't take it 30 minutes to 2 hours after you work out. Next, improves liver function and liver regeneration, is anti-estrogen, so it downregulates the aromatase enzyme, helps with bone health and calcium regulation due to increased CO2. So aspirin increases cell respiration and increases your metabolic rate. It also lowers the amount of free fatty acids in the blood for you to be able to burn glucose better. So when you do use aspirin, always make sure that you consume with some carbohydrate source, honey, sugar, orange juice, things like that. Increases CO2. You already understand how important CO2 is, so it's very powerful. Heals gut health, so it's good for your gut. Is antifungal. Increases oxygen uptake, so as you know, that means the metabolic rate increases, so your body can take in more oxygen, which also means that there's more CO2 because there's a higher exchange, so it ties into this. Reduces damage from oxidation, so vitamin E protects you from damage that is being done by vitamin E right now. Aspirin helps you with the damage that has been done, so it's very powerful in that sense. Next, it blocks the formation of free fatty acids. Fat burning is a total lower energy output, and then helps with mitochondrial uncoupling, which basically means it helps with heat production. It makes you feel warmer. So here's some quote. It's from Peat. Aspirin is protective to the stomach and intestine and other organs. Repeated use of aspirin protects the stomach against very strong irritants. The experiments in which aspirin produces stomach ulcers are designed to produce ulcers, not to realistically model the way aspirin is being used. The animal studies that show that stomach damage from aspirin often use single doses equivalent to 10 to 100 aspirin tablets. So that could be to 3 to 4 grams up to 40 grams, right? And no one really takes that much, right? When aspirin and B3 niacinamide lower the temp, I think it's because they lower the stress hormone. So whenever you take aspirin or niacinamide, which both lower free fatty acids, and you notice that you might get cold afterwards, it doesn't always mean that it's a stress response. It can also mean that it's lowering the stress hormones, because if you're in a hypometabolic state and you're running on adrenaline, the adrenaline makes you warm. And if you take aspirin or B3, that can lower the stress hormones. And that will have a temporarily, you might feel colder, but ultimately better, more calm feeling. When it comes to, some people might get allergy to aspirin. So if you use aspirin, you get like histamine reactions, or you get like allergic reaction, right? So I know people who had lifelong aspirin allergy who now use it regularly. I think part of it's the metabolic problems caused by PUFA and low thyroid function. And one of the things is, and it ties into caffeine as well, they detoxify all the toxins out of the body. And as they're leaving the body, like the estrogens, the PUFA, all the toxins, when it's leaving the body, it can't get reabsorbed. And that's what's causing the issue, not the actual aspirin. So one of the things you can do is consume vitamin E as well. When you use aspirin, right? Let's say you take one tablet, which is anywhere from 300 to 500 milligrams of aspirin, you must take vitamin K2 with it. So for every 3 to 500 milligrams, take 1 milligram of vitamin K2, because aspirin is a blood thinner. And K2 is like an insurance, and it, in the sense of, if you were to get a cut while using aspirin, you'll keep bleeding, right? Let's say you get in an accident, it can be life-threatening in a sense. So always use vitamin K2 when you're using aspirin. Aspirin is capable of inhibiting the activity of the enzyme aromatase, so it's anti-estrogen. 10 days of aspirin supplementation, so 800 milligrams twice daily, lowers cortisol concentration significantly and greatly boosted testosterone concentration. So it is very beneficial in that sense. How do you get the aspirin? So you can get aspirin from just your local shop like Tesco or whatever. And I'll go over to how you can use that, because those usually contain impurities. If you want to get pure aspirin powder, this is pure aspirin powder. It's currently unavailable there, but if you just search up the company, you can get it somewhere else. And then here's a post Ralph made. So tips for people who use aspirin from Danny Roddy: get something that can be put in the microwave and fill it with a bit of water, like a cup, glass cup, whatever it is. Then put a bit of water in there, then heat it. Also, you can just boil water and put it in a cup. Then take it out and then add your aspirin tablet. Then add a few pinches of baking soda. After some time, the tablet remains at the bottom of the cup. And you have clear water with aspirin in it. Pour the clean water to whatever you want. Add some vitamin K2, because aspirin makes you blood thinner and K2 helps with clotting. So basically, heat some water in a container, glass container preferably, or whatever you want to use. You can boil it, you can put it in the microwave. Once you have the warm as water, you add your aspirin into it, and you add just a pinch of baking soda. You twist it around, you spin it around. If you need to crush the aspirin if it's not like melting, and then you just swirl it around and you let everything settle down. Then after a minute or two, you pour the actual liquid into a separate container, and you'll see all the impurities at the bottom, and you want to just discard that, and you just want to drink the aspirin water. You can add some juice to it, whatever works best. Yeah. So that's if you want to buy just aspirin from the shop, and then that if you want to buy it, repeat. I have known a few people who took 4 to 6 grams per day for several years for arthritis or cancer, but I usually think of 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams per day as a maximum safe dose, but it depends on things like age and thyroid function. With low kidney function, even that much could accumulate to a toxic level. So staying within the, let's say, so that's 1,600. So with staying within that range, I notice anywhere from 400 to a gram is good, as high as 1.5 works pretty well. Make sure you take the vitamin K2. There's also an amazing article on aspirin if you want to give it a read. I'm not going to read it here, to go into studies and things like that. Also, I made a separate document going over even more studies on aspirin. So I can read a few. So daily aspirin reduces by 37 risk of fatty liver progressing into bleeding in the brain. Aspirin actually increases risk of bleeding in the brain. Treatment for brain cancer, for colon cancer. Aspirin is as effective as Viagra for ED, erectile dysfunction. Aspirin may protect lungs from air pollution. Aspirin may treat brain aneurysms. Aspirin is safe and effective for prevention and treatment of migraine. Aspirin / salt for treating a broken heart and what really causes a BF. Aspirin, new osteoporosis drug, protects mitochondria from inflammation and aging. Aspirin has dramatically lower bleeding risk than pharma anticoagulants. Aspirin can cure liver cancer in just 24 hours. DHT, progesterone, aspirin treat cortisol, and effective proof of prostate cancer. Aspirin may prevent and treat COVID. Aspirin beneficial. Dementias. So there's all these studies you can check out. That's something you want to have a look. But ultimately, to simplify it and just to conclude, another thing I wanted to show. This is one of the things I mentioned. A combination of low thyroid and undigested food is the usual cause of those sleep problems, since blood sugar normally falls at night. And with hypothyroidism, the low blood sugar causes intestinal inflammation and activates the stress hormones. Milk with sugar or honey lowers the stress response. A little coffee and aspirin at bedtime can lower some of these chemicals that cause wakefulness. So that's why aspirin is so powerful in that. So aspirin overall will increase your metabolic rate. I highly recommend you give it a shot. I was surprised how effective it is. In the moment, you might feel, it depends where you are in your thyroid levels. If you're running a lot on adrenaline, let's say, and you take some aspirin, you might feel temporarily more anxious because aspirin increases your thyroid hormones, and when your thyroid hormones increase, you're more sensitive to adrenaline. So you're actually being aware of your current state in a way that you're running on a lot of adrenaline, and now you're actually experiencing what it's like. So you might feel a bit anxious. So when you do feel that, I would start with a lower dose, let's say 300 milligrams or 250, like a half dose, let's say, and work your way up. But ultimately, you'll feel much calmer. I usually take it before I go to sleep, make sure I'm well fed and things like that. Then I notice personally increased oxygen intake, and the next day the sleep feels clean. You just feel clean and just good and calm and stress free, and the next day you might feel very calm and relaxed as well. So that's how I noticed aspirin affected me. I highly recommend you give it a shot. You can make it yourself, you can buy it in the shop, or you can order it online, whatever floats your boat. So yeah, that being said, that's the section on aspirin, which I recommend you take. And always remember, you take it with vitamin K2. You don't have to take it at the same time. As long as your daily vitamin K2 intake is solid, you should be fine. Whether you're taking vitamin D and K2 in the morning and then aspirin later in the day, that's fine. But as long as you're getting in enough vitamin K2 for how much aspirin you're taking. So yeah, that being said, I'll see you in the next lesson.